What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and tonight we're going to be talking about the new teaser for Black Ops 6 Zombies, and even a serious reveal that I think we're about to witness as soon as Season 5. Definitely stay tuned. But before we jump into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, drop a like, and with that being said, we got plenty of brand new article coverage also going up on detonated.com for those who want to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare 3, and of course, all things Black Ops 6. But this is, of course, a Zombies video, so I had to mention these. Control Freak just introduced a surprise drop, which is a collector's edition perk can featuring new Call of Duty themed thumbsticks. You can use code Dynamite to save 10% off any order on Control Freak's website, and I think these are going to sell out pretty quickly, so take advantage of these while they are still available. I'm actually really surprised they dropped Zombies themed thumbsticks right now. I'm sure they'll end up doing some Black Ops 6 ones in the next few months, but I think it's great that the spirit of Zombies is still alive, especially through some official Call of Duty merchandise. But I do want to remind you guys that, as I mentioned in a recent BO6 Zombies video, if Zombies is going to be playable at COD Next later this August, I think there's a high probability they end up dropping the reveal trailer for the mode before COD Next. With COD Next being the very end of August, I think we'll end up seeing some type of marketing, some teasers, or even a small trailer before that event, because if COD Next is structured the way that it was last year for MW3, right when the broadcast begins, you'll have casters talking for like a minute or so, but then you'll have content creators jumping right into multiplayer, maybe Zombies, possibly Warzone. So if it's structured that way, I wouldn't be surprised if Zombies gets a bit more marketing before the big event. However, I could be wrong. They just save all the marketing for that day only, but considering that MP also got a reveal trailer last year before content creators jumped into the mode at the event, maybe something similar will happen. Obviously, last year for MW3 COD Next, things with Zombies were a bit different because we ended up getting the reveal trailer and a bit of a breakdown from Kevin Drew, but content creators weren't able to play it live on stream. Now, something that I think people have forgotten, which is actually really important for teasing Black Ops 6 Zombies and taking a look at the overarching narrative of the new Zombies iteration, is the fact that Season 5 of MWZ will end up concluding the Zombies post-launch season, at least for MW3. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about Season 5 Zombies DLC once that gets revealed next week with the marketing, but so far, some data miners out there have found references to what could be the new story mission and even the Rift quest that we're going to have to do as soon as Season 5 Reloaded begins at the very end of August. I believe Season 5 Reloaded should be starting an exact week before COD Next, so that kind of goes in part with what I was saying before. We'll end up seeing some marketing and probably some teasers for BO6 before COD Next, and some of that may be within MWZ. So apparently we're going to have to secure a rift, find the entity, and then find relics as per usual, cleanse the relics themselves, and then reach the top of a tower. Not sure if that's going to be for the boss fight, but some of the Dark Aether items are apparently the same as what we saw in previous seasonal updates. We got to look for a diary, a drum, a giraffe, and even Mr. Peaks. Now, Mr. Peaks is going to be really relevant, at least in my opinion, for Black Ops 6, and we'll circle back as to why later on, but there'll apparently be new items in this upcoming rift, such as a gold skull, as we saw in DMZ, launch pads, which sound pretty exciting, and even new keys to unlock loot areas. Now, we actually saw secret rooms that you can only open using keys back in the Season 1 rift update several months ago, but neither of the other rifts ended up having secret rooms, which I think was a bit weird, so luckily that's going to be coming back for Season 5, but a model for the entity was also discovered, and without spoiling too much about the story implications of this, it looks like the entity could end up being the same size as the Forsaken, according to leakers. Take all that with a grain of salt, of course, but that actually sounds like a massive conclusion to the arc we currently have inside of MWZ. Although the story has been a bit slow considering the content drops haven't been as action-packed since Season 1, there still is a really important story being told that I think is going to be really important for Black Ops 6, and even a game after that we're going to talk about later in this video too. But something that I think MWZ is going to touch on a bit more towards the end of Season 5 is Project Janus. Now, if you remember the opening cutscene for MW3 Zombies, which got shown to us well over a year ago now, that did depict Requiem being dead around the table. It's like they sacrificed their souls, like they became essence or something, and then the essence was stolen, as we saw with the very end of that cutscene. But notice how Dr. Strauss is there, but Maya isn't. And if you guys are familiar with the set crew we're going to have in BO6 Zombies, as we talked about before, that crew is going to consist of Weaver, Carver, Gray, and somebody new called Maya. But where's Dr. Strauss in all this? That's the big question mark. So I could be stretching this completely here, but I'm just mentioning it anyway, because that's what we do in the Zombies community, right? We talk about fun theories. Does Maya end up betraying our set crew, or does she go off on her own mission later on? Then Strauss kind of rejoins the crew for whatever reason. Then all of a sudden they sacrifice themselves. Lots of possibilities where this can go, but this is possibly maybe the aftermath or repercussions of what Project Janus is. Something big went down in the past that you can bet Black Ops 6 is going to dive into a lot more, but I don't think think that the plot that we've seen so far at MWZ is as black and white as it may seem. It's not that MWZ's already spoiled the end of Black Ops 6 Zombies in that DLC season, but it's clearly teasing something pretty big that I couldn't be more excited about. Now, I'm sure the director would be a bit old by the time MW3 Zombies and that storyline takes place. Maybe he entered a portal or something at the end of BO6, hence his absence from MWZ thus far, but where is he at, right? He's just nowhere really to be found in the MWZ post-launch story, so I think that's where Project Janus really comes into play. Is it possible that the director makes a cameo, right? Do we see Richtofen himself at the end of the MWZ story that really starts setting up how Project Janus starts, likely in BO6? Totally a possibility, but I want to say the director is going to be the most important character of the Black Ops 6 arc. Now, something you guys may have seen, or if you haven't, we have the Steelbook case for Black Ops 6 that will be exclusively sold over at GameStop, right? This will come with a physical copy of the game for about $70, regardless of the platform. It has to be console, of course. You can't get a disc for PC. You can actually pick this up right when the game releases in late October. It's the closest we'll end up getting to a physical edition of Black Ops 6. There could, of course, be like that Walmart collector's box that they end up selling that doesn't come with a copy of the game, but does feature a bunch of collectibles or memorabilia or just items relevant to the plot of the game. I want to bring this up real quick because the MW3 Walmart collector's box did feature what I thought was our first look at the Widow's Wine perk that we were going to get eventually, but that perk never ended up seeing the light of day. But there is a big push, as you can see in the inside of the case, for Project Janus. What's really funny is that a lot of the other marketing we've gotten so far for Black Ops 6 has featured several references to both Project Janus and I believe a new company we're going to end up seeing in the game called Advanced Technologies and Applications. So whether or not those two companies or projects or groups are connected is totally unknown right now, but it's cool that we ended up seeing our first look at the Project Janus logo from the Steelbook case when we probably would have had to wait until the full launch of the game to see this several months from now. This is honestly a really cool teaser that I know some fans of the community have compared to previous Black Ops Steelbooks, which also had a big push around zombies. If you look at the BO2 or BO3 Steelbooks, there was obviously a big emphasis on zombies, but that didn't really mean that zombies as a whole impacted other parts of the game. But considering how much Janus is referenced across other pieces of BO6 marketing, I think there's actually a stronger probability, and this could mark the first time, that whatever's going on in zombies could actually be looming in the background of a mode like campaign or even multiplayer. Now, if Janus just is a part of zombies and not other parts of the game, then having this emphasized on the Steelbook case and other parts of the marketing could just mean that it is going to be the biggest plot point we're going to have in BO6 Zombies, which you know the director, aka Requiem, is directly involved with. So trying to piece together the puzzle that is Janus is actually really interesting because it does seem like Liberty Falls will be where Project Janus kind of kickstarts, right? Lots of references in Cold War did confirm that Project Janus will be very relevant in West Virginia, and what do you know, Liberty Falls takes place in West Virginia. Now, the events of Liberty Falls and Terminus will take place at the very same time as confirmed by Treyarch, so I do feel like eventually our crew will begin to intercept whatever begins at Liberty Falls, maybe in DLC 1 or DLC 2. There'll likely end up being a couple of extra round-based maps throughout the post-launch of BO6, but the meaning of Janus, right, as we talked about in a video I want to say years ago that I made, we have the definition of Janus meaning Roman god of doorways, of beginnings, the rising and setting of the sun, but most importantly, the god of beginnings or gates has to do with time duality, doorways, passages, frames, and even endings. A pretty significant term to use for this project, so that's clearly setting up something that we probably haven't even wrapped our minds around yet. That's how big it's likely going to be. Now, the first cipher referencing Project Janus was released in Season 3 of Black Ops Cold War. It features a coded message from Dr. Strauss to Dr. Gray warning her that much of her research will be put on hold, as well as large amounts of both of their collected Ethereum that are being diverted elsewhere. He asks her what she knows about Project Janus, but tells her to be very careful who she mentions it to. So upon gathering more pieces of the puzzle from the end of Cold War to even MWZ now, Janus does require a giant gateway, and there was one in Mauder Toten that apparently could have been used for the project, but the director claimed that it was a bit too soon to go ahead and do that, so they didn't. But maybe he wants this gateway to go rescue his son, who's apparently in the Dark Aether. Does he want to become the Archon? I mean, funny enough, there is a purple construct that for some reason got added recently to Warzone Mobile. I mean, it looks like the exact same construct that we saw in Vanguard, and we know that Cortifex, or the Archon in Vanguard Zombies, used the construct, right? But it was red. So the fact that we saw a purple one just has me thinking, will we end up seeing that in Black Ops 6 at some point? That would be crazy. But it could also be possible that Project Janus requires the Forsaken or additional energy. It's also possible that if this new entity-like boss in Season 5 MWZ MW3, if that boss is the same size as the Forsaken, maybe the director has some crazy plan behind the scenes to also capture that entity somehow and use whatever energy he can to go ahead and complete Project Janus. I mean, what if it's not completed even by the year, 2020 something when MW3 takes place? What if it's still an ongoing operation that had to be paused until he gathered other pieces that he needed for this operation? Now, considering Max has presented a threat to Project Janus but hasn't been seen in quite some time, has me thinking that there's a big explanation we're gonna get in Black Ops 6 that explains the whereabouts of both Samantha and Richtofen. I think that's really exciting to know that despite what could be the death of Requiem as we know it in BO6, there's still so much that we don't know about and so much that quote-unquote hasn't been spoiled by the post-launch of MW3. Now, last thing I'll end with is that with a futuristic Black Ops game being rumored for 2025, again, it is just a rumor right now, could that be the game that picks up wherever MWZ leaves off in Season 5? Considering that MW3 takes place in the future, at least when you compare the game to BO6, the only game to, I guess, take place close to MW3 will apparently be Black Ops 2025. If the game takes place either in 2025 or even 2030, that's still in the same decade-ish as MW3, so that could be when we get some type of follow-up to whatever happens at the end of Season 5 Reloaded. But I do think it's quite interesting to see this back and forth. I think there's a lot of opportunity for each era or each Zombies game in each era to kind of bounce ideas and plot points off of each other that can kind of pick up every other game. You guys may not be a fan of how it's not as linear of a story that's being told right now, but there's a lot of potential as long as it's written correctly and not rushed. There's a lot of potential with where this can go with future Black Ops iterations, right? You can have a game set in like the 90s, early 2000s, another game that also is connected in canon that takes place in late 2020s, 2030s. So much material that could be used here for the future of the Dark Aether narrative. But considering we're probably going to be opening up a huge gateway to the Dark Aether in BO6, that to me opens up the door in Black Ops 2025 to maybe do map remakes that take place in the Dark Aether or bring back old characters that could still be locked within the Dark Aether that I think could play a vital role in the story moving forward. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave our thoughts down below in the comments section. What are your thoughts on our new teaser for Project Janus in Black Ops 6 Zombies? How do you think MW3 is going to set everything up in Season 5? And also for those that want another recap of Project Janus in written form, at least there'll be an article on Detonated later tonight which also has that for you. But really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.